Welcome back. We are walking through Meditations on the Trinity by A.W. Tozer. If you've not bought the book yet, I want to encourage you to do that today. Today we are back to God the Father, and we're talking about God's mercy, and we're going to jump right into this. It is based on 2 Chronicles 5:13, which says, "He is good. His love endures forever." And this is what Tozer has to say. God is merciful. As I said about the other attributes of the deity, mercy is not something God has, but something God is. If mercy was something God had, conceivably, God might mislay or use it up. It might become less or more. But since it is something that God is, then we must remember that it is uncreated. The mercy of God did not come into being. The mercy of God was always in being. For mercy is what God is, and God is eternal, and God is infinite. There has been a lot of careless teaching that implies that the Old Testament is a book of severity and law, and the New Testament is a book of tenderness and grace. But do you know that while both the Old and the New Testament declare the mercy of God, the word mercy appears in the Old Testament over 4 times more often than in the New Testament? That's a bit hard to believe, but it's true. This popular idea is a great error because the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New is one God. He did not change. He is the same God. And being the same God and not changing, he must therefore necessarily be the same in the Old as he is in the New. He is immutable. And because he is perfect, he cannot be added to. God's mercy was just as great in the Old Testament as it was in the New. So as we look at this, what we know is that God was the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. In other words, God is unchanging. He doesn't change his mind. He doesn't change his patterns. He doesn't change how he thinks. He doesn't change how he rules or what he declares as right or wrong. God says this is right and this is wrong. And when we look at mercy, I think it is important for us to know that it is the very nature of who God is. Now, before we get into who God is in very nature, let's take one step back and say, well, what is mercy? And when I think of mercy, I think of all the TV shows and movies where, it's kind of back in the days of old when everybody's riding horses, and it's all like maybe Roman era type time, and someone commits high treason like against Caesar. And they are brought before Caesar because they tried to kill him or they tried to poison him or they were planning on killing him. And they're sitting before Caesar pleading, "Have mercy on me, have mercy on me." And so the real essence of our understanding of mercy is that we have done something wrong and we need someone to be merciful towards us because of our wrongdoing. So in order for Caesar to have mercy on someone in that type of a setting, he would say, you can go free, or even you can stay alive. I'm not going to punish you by death. You can go to prison. Okay, that would still be a merciful action. But what we see in God is that God's mercy is true, it is perfect, and it is constant. Okay, it doesn't change, it doesn't alter. It's always the same throughout all of history. And what's interesting is we really see the fullness of God's mercy. We see it in the nature of the God, the absolute most, when we look at Jesus Christ coming and dying on the cross for your sin and for mine. Because the reality is that mercy presents 2 things. First, it presents this idea of truth, right? Because in order for mercy to be given to someone, the truth has to come out. That there has been error, that someone has done something wrong. And so with us and God, the truth of Jesus Christ having to come and die on the cross for you and for me is that our sin is so ugly, it is so heavy, and it is punishable by death. And the only way for mankind to enter into this relationship with God, where there's no boundaries in between, where there's not this great gap in between, is through blood sacrifice. And for all of humanity to be able to have that, there was only one way for that to happen, and that was if the very Son of God came and did it. If he came and lived a perfect life, if he never sinned, if he truly was a spotless lamb, and he shed his blood and died on the cross for your sin and for mine. And so what it communicates is the truth of the reality of our sin, the ugliness, the heaviness, the weight of it all, and how severe our sin actually is. And God looked at our sin. He looked at our position, and he said, I'm going to have mercy on you. I'm going to send my son. You're not going to be lost. You're not going to be sent to hell. You're not going to go into eternal damnation, but rather, I'm going to send my son to come and die for you so that you can enter into a relationship with God, so that you can live freely in this world, so that you don't have to be bound and trapped by sin. Now, the second component, first, is that mercy brings truth. Okay? In order for mercy to exist, there has to be an element of truth that has come to light. The second piece is that it spurs towards forgiveness. Okay? Mercy spurs towards forgiveness. And what I mean by that is, by Jesus coming and dying on the cross, okay, he's saying, if you enter into relationship with me, I will forgive your sin. Now, if he had never had mercy on us in the first place, then there would be no forgiveness to be given, because he would be saying, I'm not going to forgive you. I'm not going to have mercy on you. You're going to burn in hell for all of eternity. But instead, mercy is a step that we see in the progression of him forgiving us of our sin. And so we see both truth and we see forgiveness come into play when we see what Jesus did in his mercy for us on the cross. And what we have to know about God is that his mercy is perfect. And that is a very natural part of who he is. He will never run out. He will never give too much. He will never give to someone who doesn't need it or deserve it or shouldn't have it. God knows so much more than we do. And while we may feel like someone got mercy unfairly, we don't see the whole picture. We don't know what all is going on. And God does. And the reality is, the truth is, that our sin is just as ugly as someone else's. So, this is what Tozer prays at the end. He says, Father, thank you for showing me, a sinner, your mercy. May I ever be receptive to you and never take your mercy for granted. I hope that that's your prayer today, that you would recognize that you are in need of mercy. You are in need of God's mercy, and you're in need of it every day. There's not a day that goes by that you don't sin. And I hope that you recognize the ugliness and the weightiness of your sin, and that was so severe that Jesus had to come and die on the cross. Thanks for watching today. I hope that you'll take some time to sit in prayer and just thank and praise God for being perfect in mercy.